Sareen Karajian is the Senior Director of Analytics and Strategic Integration at CEDEC. CEDEC is a Community Economic Development and Employability Corporation. She holds a Master's of Science degree in Business Management Finance from John Molson School of Business, Concordia University. Her work at CEDEC focuses on providing research and analysis, including economic research and impact measurement, in support of CEDEC's work in economic development and in exploring new collaborative economic development opportunities. So with that, I would like to turn the call over to Sareen for presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sadie. Thank you for having me today. Welcome, everyone. It's good to be here today. I'm joined by the VP of Ops, Anna Vanna, here today with my colleagues, as well as Grant Myers, VP of CS Corporate Services. And I'm really happy to be making this presentation to tell you more about CEDEC, more about our research, official language research activities as well. I'll be sharing my screen. All right.
Where is everybody from, Sareen?
Well, so everywhere we have York region, we have City of Vancouver, we have all across Canada, I see.
Oh,
York
nice.
region. Yes.
That's amazing.
Welcome, everyone. So I'm just going to, do you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
All right, perfect. All right. So just to introduce CEDEC, before I start my presentation, CEDEC helps communities across Quebec achieve lasting economic success by identifying and leveraging their strongest opportunities for growth and investment, with a specific focus on English-speaking communities in Quebec. We create public, private, and civil society partnerships that harness the combined resources and expertise, foster innovation and creativity, and drive economic development. Our main goals and objectives are really to help create jobs, upskill and place workers, increase income, increase wages and revenues, build and grow businesses, and increase investments and trade. So when you talk about economic development, it's always important to understand it. CEDEC sees economic development as a structural foundation of human well-being. So without a dynamic and inclusive economy, individuals and communities become confined to coping and surviving. So they focus on short-term survival, they focus on securing short-term income, responding to crises. But when economic participation and opportunities come in, they shift coping to building. So individuals gain income stability, they gain mobility, agency, the ability to plan, to invest, and to build. And communities gain revenue, they gain social cohesion, they gain long-term sustainability. So economic inclusion is particularly critical, and economic development is therefore not separate from well-being, but a prerequisite for it. So when we speak of economic development, we speak of human agency, mobility, resilience, and long-term vitality. So as we all know, Quebec is currently going through structural changes. There are major transformations happening simultaneously. First, demographic changes, the transformation of the labor market, as well as technological and AI acceleration. And these forces are shaping and affecting many sectors like manufacturing, agriculture, health, tourism, and transportation. And it is important for communities to really keep up with these transformations. So moments like these are pivotal. And economic foundations can either weaken, in this case, through exclusion, through fragmentation, and through lost opportunities, or they can be deliberately strengthened. For the English-speaking community of Quebec, which we really do focus on, this is not and should not be a passive moment. It is a strategic moment in being a collaborative partner in building Quebec's future economy. So what is our role at CEDEC? Our vision is a thriving, inclusive economy that benefits all, including French and English speakers. Our mission is to strengthen Quebec's economy through the full participation of the English-speaking community of Quebec. Our role is really to lead as a leader in economic development for the official language minority of Quebec, which is the English-speaking community in Quebec, in partnership, of course, with Francophone communities. And how do we do that? We do that through collaboration between communities, collaboration between sectors, the public, private, and civil society sectors, as the engine of innovation, productivity, and mutual support. So what is our model? I'll talk a little about our model before I go into our research. Our model is to connect the public, private, and civil society actors to build innovative and scalable economic capacity. Our model includes targets as well. We want to expand business growth, especially small and medium enterprise growth. We want to create businesses. We want to create and develop social enterprises. And we want to improve labor market participation. This includes creating jobs, filling jobs, and of course, the income that comes with that. Also, as part of our model, we look at aligning local priorities with structural investment, with national strategies within one shared economy, one single economy. And as part of our model also converts individual and community potential, individual and community assets into sustained economic participation and vitality. So our collaborative economic development model strengthens the base upon which institutions and social cohesion are built and deepened. Just a few numbers before we go ahead. These are our 10-year targets by 2033. Our targets are to fill 1,000 jobs by English-speaking Quebecers, expand and launch 250 businesses or social enterprises, new investments of $5 million, an incentive fund of $25 million, and a reduction of 50% in economic disparity between English speakers and French speakers. These are our targets, and really they represent expanded economic participation, higher individual incomes, higher community revenues, and greater individual and community economic resilience. So let's talk a little about how we do this. Part of our model has applied research in it. We really focus on research to produce these results. And our research is not academic. It's not descriptive. It's applied research, especially applied economic and labor market analyses and diagnostics. We also use our research for strategic opportunity identification, so to identify opportunities in this economy. And after identifying opportunities, we develop ventures. And ventures are really viable enterprises, social enterprises and businesses that use innovation and collaboration between the public, private, and civil society sectors. So it's all about bringing those sectors together and having a viable enterprise and business through innovation. It is structural support. CEDEC's research is structural support for decision-making about economic collaboration, economic growth, and economic development. So let's start with some of our activities, some of our products that we've produced in the last few years. I'll start with the first step that we had. So we started with a macroeconomic overview of the Canadian, the Quebec economies. So this report, you can find it online on the cedec.ca website. And this report really talks about the Canadian and Quebec economic conditions, what forces are shaping the Canadian and Quebec economies at the moment, and how they're affecting some key sectors in the Quebec economy. We talk about artificial intelligence, of course, one of the major forces shaping the economy. We also talk about the sustainable, the green economy. And another important aspect are the demographic shifts, the demographic development that is taking place, the aging of the population, the labor market transformation as well. And we also look at these forces and their intersection with some of the sectors that are growing, that have potential in Quebec. These sectors like manufacturing, like agriculture, health, like tourism is an important one in Quebec, as well as transportation. So it also looks at broadly into these sectors and how these drivers are transforming these sectors. And finally, this report also looked at risks and some opportunities that are affecting the official language minority of Quebec, which is the English-speaking community in Quebec. So this is just the beginning of our research, a more macro level understanding. A second step after this was completed, we went in more depth. So the first one was more of a secondary research, looking at a macroeconomic overview. We wanted to dive into some of the opportunities that were sort of discussed in the research. So we decided to do a sort of a primary research component here in this report. And we went ahead and conducted deliberative dialogues. So they're like focus groups. And we brought together key stakeholders in different sectors. We had overall 10 dialogues, 10 workshops, kind of. And these workshops brought together public, private, and civil society actors. They had different themes for different opportunities. One was tourism and AI, for example. One was agriculture and the digital transformation of the agricultural operations. Another was health, telehealth, for example. That was an interesting one. So each of these grouped together key stakeholders. We also looked at the art sector and e-commerce and how that is developing. We also looked at employment, which was employment for youth, employment for seniors, which was a very interesting topic. How seniors can contribute to the economy, how older adults can contribute to the economy through pivoting their careers, but also entrepreneurship. So those were some interesting topics that we covered in these dialogues. And accordingly, after these dialogues were completed, we created this report with 24 high impact opportunities across 10 clusters, 10 teams. And all of these 24 opportunities were based on the research, the secondary research, as well as the primary research, and anchored in AI and digital transformation, sustainable economy, and the demographic shifts that we discussed earlier. And really, this was moving from insight, from data, to outcomes, to economic outcomes in jobs, enterprise development, and revenue. So this was another sort of deliverable that we had. And according to this, we are now creating our roadmap, our economic development roadmap for 2026 and 2028. And this roadmap is actually taking the opportunities that were identified and are being validated, and really they are intended to be converted into, the opportunities are intended to be converted into investment-ready initiatives, which we call ventures. So viable businesses, viable social enterprises that bring together the public, private, and civil society actors, and really that meet a demand in a certain community. So this is our roadmap for the next few years. We intend to look at each of the opportunities that we identified and really create ventures based on the research. And the impact of things, the goal of this is to reduce economic disparities, which was one of our main goals. Economic disparities between the English speakers and the French speakers in Quebec through structured, inclusive economic activity. So that was another, activity of ours, the research activity of ours. And then let's move on to a few other sort of day-to-day research products that we produce. So when we do have a venture in place in a community, in a municipality, for example, or in a region, we do want to understand that region. And for that, it is important to understand the population, the labor market. So this is why we do produce some reports on the socioeconomic profile of the populations, especially of English speakers, and then compare, of course, to the overall population and to the French-speaking population. And here we're looking at some of the demographic trends, the migration. So a lot of it is either data from Statistics Canada or Institut de la Statistique du Québec, and a few other sort of surveys from provincial and federal sources. We also look at the income and education indicators. We also look at the economic assets that exist in these municipalities and these regions. And of course, this data is meant to enable a targeted leveraging and strengthening of local and regional assets and foundations. It's meant to frame our ventures, to support our ventures, and really to keep them going. This is part of our research. In addition to that, if we want to intervene in a specific municipality or in a specific market, we also need to conduct a market study. And some of our products, so it really depends on the sector and it really depends on the market. It could be tourism, it could be cruise ship, it could be agriculture and AI. And overall, we look at the demand and the supply of the market, the competitive positioning of such a venture taking place. So what is the competition? What else exists? The venture's financial feasibility. Is it feasible to start this project, this venture? And the scalability, whether it can grow. And of course, guide investment and partnership decisions with the research that we conduct. So in this case, we're conducting market validation, ensuring economic initiatives reinforce rather than weaken the economic assets that exist in that community. So those are some examples of day-to-day research that we provide to our ventures. We also did conduct this research, and this was interesting for us to see what are the pathways from education to employment. So when someone graduates, because our work really focuses on employment and income, we wanted to see how other countries, other jurisdictions treat their education to employment pathways and what bridges they have when it comes to this. What policies they have in place that align the education institution with the employer and with the intermediary, which is the connector, kind of. And how do they reduce the labor market friction, sort of those gaps, and how do they improve mobility between education and employment? And for this, we looked at a few jurisdictions that are comparable to Quebec. We looked at Belgium, we looked at Switzerland, we looked at Sweden. And the comparability is based on the economic context as well as the multilingual aspect, comparability of these two sort of countries or jurisdictions. So we did find a few very interesting conclusions. We came to 5 interesting findings, and I'll go quickly through them. You can find these on the CEDEC website, but I'll really go through them very quickly. One major finding that these successful jurisdictions have that help with a successful pathway between education and employment is work-integrated learning. So work-integrated learning in some of these jurisdictions is embedded structurally in some of their educational and training programs. So they're systemic, they're not selective, they're built into program design and the employer culture. It was very interesting to see what some of these countries do. Another finding was language, how important language was for them as an employability tool. It wasn't a barrier to find employment, which in some cases could be in Quebec when it comes to English speakers, but it really was a bridge to employment. So some countries co-finance the workplace language skills trainings when someone starts working or during their paid work hours. And language is not a prerequisite, but part of the onboarding process. So that was another interesting pathway. Another interesting finding was employers and the role employers have when it comes to sort of creating pathways of training for their labor. So they're not passive recipients of labor, they are actually co-designers of training pathways for that labor. So they work closely with educational institutions. For example, in Switzerland, employers, they're central architects of the vocational educational system. And there's even initiatives where smaller enterprises come together and jointly train an apprentice. And this way, they're reducing sort of the administrative costs on them, the risks on themselves, and they are able to produce a trained apprentice and guarantee a job at the end. So employer partnerships are very important between each other, as well as between educational institutions. Another finding was the crucial role of intermediaries when it came to pathways between education and employment. And here we mean the organizations that sit between the job seekers, between the educators, the employers, and they are the connectors. They are the ones that are connecting job coaching, placement, language supports, and other training supports, ensuring that everyone has an equal chance in guaranteeing a job. And finally, lifelong learning is really crucial for these high-performing systems. They treat them as very important mechanisms that build a continuum of lifelong learning that connect the education with the reskilling, with the re-entry, especially to the market, especially for older adults that are pivoting in their careers, which is really essential for economic inclusion in this rapidly changing labor market. So this was one of the research products that we presented at Questcron, Concordia University. It was very interesting. And another sort of aspect of our work, in addition to the research that we do on a community level, is really measuring the impact. So we do have these ventures, and we want to see if they are successful. We want to see if they are producing economic benefits. And to do so, we collect some data. There's a need to collect some primary data from these ventures. So for example, one venture that we have in place is Employee SBC. It's a matching platform that places populations from the Black community of Montreal into jobs. So we want to see what is the impact of this venture. And for that, we collect some data from the venture in terms of how many people were placed at jobs, their income, and other sort of indicators. And accordingly, we calculate the economic impact of this venture. And when I say economic impact, it's both the direct, which is the income, and the indirect and induced, which is what this sort of employment has a spillover effect on the economy. So let's say someone gets a job. What is the effect of this job on the economy as they are actively spending in their community? So it's also a very important aspect of our research to sort of calculate and measure the impact of our ventures. And we have some examples here. We also, in addition to measuring the impact of our own projects, we also work with our partners to measure the impact of their programs. And one partner that we do have is McGill Seed. So it's a program by McGill University in Montreal. And the program is actually, it looks at, it hosts immigrants and it provides mentorship training to immigrants that in order to integrate them into the labor market in Montreal. So that's their initiative. And we help them as well measure some impact of their program, the performance of their program, as well as the economic impact of their program. So that's what we do externally with them as our partner. And it's all about inclusion, expanding economic activity, and strengthening individual and community well-being. So really the main target of our survey, we do a survey for this, and we aim to measure the accelerated labor market integration, the broadened labor participation, as well as the economic returns, the returns, financial returns that they receive. So that's another example of one of our activities. And really, in conclusion, as I've demonstrated in these slides, economic development is not an isolated objective or space. There's a lot that goes into it. It is a structural base of human connectivity. It contributes in a significant and meaningful way to individual well-being and community vitality. And when economic participation expands, then individuals are able to gain agency, to gain stability, communities gain wealth, attraction, and the province, of course, gains economic development, economic growth, and vitality, long-term sustainability and vitality. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Sarine, for the presentation. I put the CEDEC kind of a website in the chat box. If anyone wants to kind of explore more, they have a kind of the story of their collaboration and all other information as well. And if you have any questions for Sarine or for CEDEC team, they are here. Please, put it in the chat box, or you can also unmute your devices and ask your question. So this, as I said, this webinar is recorded, and the recording and presentation slides will be shared on the webinar page. In the meantime, that you may want to you may need some time to prepare your questions. I will talk about the kind of upcoming webinars. I'll share the Community Data Program webinar page with you, that you can see what's, the upcoming webinar, what's coming. And on March 3rd, in 2 weeks, we will have a member survey webinars. We already shared the member survey with everyone, and the team will be there to kind of go through the questions, and if you have any questions for us. Awesome. Mike, would you like to add anything if I missed?
Fiddling with my controls. No, that was great. That was very interesting. Thank you, Sarine. Do you have give some like concrete examples of ventures? I mean, yeah, you described the concept. Was wondering.
Yes, well, one of them was employee SBC. I mentioned quickly in one of the slides. It's actually placing Black talent into
Yes.
talent from the Black population into jobs in Montreal. And we've had that for a few years. We've been measuring every year the economic impact of that venture, and it grows annually. It's interesting to see that growth. That's one example, but we have many. We have a venture on cruise ships that is taking place in the Magdalene Islands as well, that brings the public, private, and civil society together. That's another. We also have a venture it's an interprovincial one. It's between Quebec and the lower North Shore and Newfoundland and Labrador, sorry. I lost my track of mine. And it's all about the tourism between these two provinces and how businesses can really benefit from each other. And there's actually Expedition 51, which is a track that goes between those two provinces. And we look at the impact of that venture by surveying businesses to see how that sort of route is affecting. We promote the route, we promote the businesses on that route, tourism businesses, and we see the impact of that venture as well.
One of the things I really appreciated, one of the ideas that came out of the flagship report that really appreciated was this idea of, really capitalizing on opportunities for collaboration in various senses, like farmers, small farmers being able to compete with larger farms by sharing the costs of infrastructure and using AI for scheduling smaller tourism industry businesses coming together to use again, the AI was often linked to some of these collaborative efforts in order to be able to schedule sharing or pool resources effectively. I don't know if is that something that if examples of, or you want to speak to more on?
Sure, it's some of, so when I spoke about the flagship report, we did identify over 20 opportunities, and each of these opportunities are really based on the research that we did, primary, secondary. And we had an event last week where we presented these opportunities to our stakeholders. It was called ProsperQ. It was attended by over 100 people, and really we had 20 workshops where we met with the stakeholders relative to this opportunity. So for example, one was agriculture and AI. And we looked at the importance of training some of the farmers with digital and AI knowledge and the tools that exist. And also there were a few others sort of opportunities and employment opportunities when it comes to agriculture, and sharing employment between sectors like tourism, which is a seasonal sector, and so is agriculture. So what can we do to share the employment between the two sectors? That was another interesting topic that was discussed. So we had several workshops that looked at validating these opportunities, and it's all about bringing the important actors together in agriculture. In this case, it was agriculture, the agricultural tech firms, the public sector, the private farmers. So it was all about bringing them together to validate these opportunities.
Yeah, I just found that aspect quite interesting. So, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's all about really putting together the secondary research and the primary research and identifying some of these opportunities that will create economic impact for the communities, especially English speakers, which are oftentimes they don't have favorable outcomes when it comes to their employment, their participation, their income. So it's all about really helping those communities, those vulnerable communities.
Thanks for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. That's very interesting. Yeah, if folks here in the room have any question for CERIN or CEDEC team, please feel free to unmute your devices and speak, or put it in the chat box. I want to open the room for CEDEC team if they want to, say anything or share anything with the CDP members. You're more than welcome to do.
Thank you, Sadie.
Awesome. That's great. So as I mentioned that this is recorded, so the recording and presentation slide will be shared on the webinar page in the coming days.
Yeah, if I can, this is Grant. I have a question for the participants. Is there anyone that is with us today outside of Quebec that works in an official language minority situation or with official language minority communities in your province or territory?
A great question.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have from different, from east to west, I guess. We had
Mhm.
from BC as well. They left, but I'm sure that's
I know that I know there is interest from our I don't want to put Darian on the spot but I do know that I mean I just got a question recently from NPI, Northern Policy Institute, wanting to look at francophone immigration. Similarly, was taking note of that just this week, that I've had a few questions about using data sets on this is who is this? Niagara region is not here, are they? Asking about the francophone population.
Yeah. I'm actually speaking to you today, Mike, from the Thunder Bay district. I'm up here at my second home, if you will,
Yes.
near Geraldton, Ontario, and there is a strong francophone population in this part of the world, and we're more than happy to share additional experiences and lessons learned from any one of your members that is working or considering working from with official language minority communities, and of course we would like to learn from other members as well. So I think there's perhaps a good opportunity in the future to share some additional learning.
Yes.
It'd be great if it could work.
awesome.
All right.
Perfect. So thank you, Sareen, for the presentation. Thank you, CEDEC team, for joining us and for this valuable information you share with CDP members. And everyone, you can search their their website, and if you have any question, reach out to them and any collaboration, future opportunities. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and I hope you have a great afternoon. Here in BC, it's 11 a.m., but I think that's rest of Canada are afternoon. So I hope you have a great afternoon, everyone, or morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Sadie.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sadie and Mike.
Thank you, Sareen. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.